On my behalf, my name is SampoTukiainen, and I come from the Aalto University School of Business in Helsinki. Just flew in today, and it was a really comfortable flight from Helsinki to Stockholm, and from Stockholm to here. I'm here basically just to give you a glimpse or a snapshot of our research that we have been doing for the past 2 years with 4 other partners in Europe. One of our partners is from the UK. I guess it's still in Europe. The Manchester University team is currently kind of in an interesting position, and I guess you know why. One of our partners, Zabala Innovation Management Consulting, is from Spain. There's a team from the University of Twente in Netherlands, and a team from Joanneum Research in Austria. And let's see. The starting point of our project, which by the way is or has been funded by the Horizon 2020 project. I guess I have to say this every time to advertise the program. But anyway, the starting point of our research project has been, or it's what it says on the top of this slide. So there are quite a lot of arguments saying that industrial innovation has changed over the past 10 or 15 years. And the science, technology, or corporate-driven innovation paradigm has been challenged by something new. And basically what we're talking about is described in the bottom half of the slide here. So the starting point for us has been that, okay, in the old days it seems that corporate innovation was done within the companies themselves. And today it's more and more often done in what we call innovation ecosystems or innovation networks. But for us kind of academic researchers, I guess the question has been that, is this true? Has there been a change? And if it's true, what does it mean? And oh, this way, yeah. For the past 2 years, we have been studying close to 700 companies in 11 countries, 11 EU countries. So they're Austria, Czech Republic, Germany, Estonia, Spain, Finland, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Portugal, and UK. So basically what this means is that we have been doing pretty much 1 interview per company. And in addition to this, we have been doing some case studies. So over the past 2 years, we've been collecting some 750 interviews to go through. We have a very kind of balanced distribution in terms of company sizes. Most of the companies are in the kind of SME, in the medium-sized company and the large company range. There was a little bit of discussion among us that what do we do with the micro companies, but we decided to leave them out. I can't remember anymore the reason for that, but yeah, the really small companies are left out from our research. And our focus has been on 5 different industrial sectors: agro-food, biopharmaceutical sector, clean technologies, ICT, and manufacturing. And obviously, if we think about the 11 countries here, the manufacturing sector kind of consists the most or the largest sector in our sample. For today, I was thinking that I will just be focusing on some of the most interesting kind of areas of discussion in our research, and they're related to the idea of ecosystems or innovation networks. There are also some new tools related to how companies can organize innovation. or innovation projects. Then there's the question of open innovation and what does it mean in terms of innovation management and practice. And one of the key focus areas of our research has been the implications that this apparent change has in terms of national and EU level innovation policies. But anyway, if I start with the ecosystem or network thinking, so it seems that the argument that I started with is at least partly true. It seems that today we have kind of a little bit more variety in terms of how and where we can do innovations. And as the graph here says, many of our respondents says that yes, the importance of innovation networks or innovation ecosystems has increased. But it's not kind of equal situation within each of these 5 sectors. I would say that it's kind of natural for the ICT sector to kind of think about or talk about their innovation activities in terms of what's happening in a network or in an ecosystem. If we, for example, think about the Android or iOS platforms, it's kind of easy to figure out that, okay, that's the central platform, and many of the companies that are different providers or different kind of have different roles in that network are dependent on those platforms. Also in the biopharmaceutical sector, it's kind of natural to think about drug development in terms of whether it happens in a particular company, within a company, or is it done in a network. And obviously today it's because of the huge costs involved, it's done more drug development is done more within a network. But on the other hand, in the interviews we also heard a lot of stories that, okay, if we think about innovations, for us, for a particular company, the most important partners are customers and suppliers and universities sometimes. But anyway, it says that, or basically points out to the relevance of customers and suppliers being the core of the network for a particular company. It seems so in kind of the traditional manufacturing industries. For example, in shipbuilding, or some of the mining companies also might say it like this. I'm not sure how you feel about this and what are your experiences, but that's kind of the general pattern here. Now if we move on to the new tools of innovation management or tools for organizing innovations today, there are quite a lot of different kinds of web-based or web-enabled tools that companies can use in their innovation organizing. But I'm focusing on kind of a personal favorite of mine here. I think that at least when the IoT, Internet of Things, when it proceeds, that one of the implications will be that many companies in their kind of daily operations, they produce a lot of or huge amounts of data. For example, myself, when I was doing these interviews, many times I asked from companies that, hey, your basic services or your basic products, they produce lots of big data. So what do you do about it? And mostly the answer was, well, that's a good question, but please answer something else or ask something else. So many times it's a situation where companies produce big data, but it's very difficult to use that. Some of the companies have developed ways to analyze that, and some of the companies actually described me that, okay, we are not talking about big data anymore, we are talking about turning big data into intelligent data. But then when I asked that, okay, still what you're going to do about it? For example, can you see that, say, in the next 10 years, you could be moving to an entire different business by just analyzing big data and making money out of selling the analysis. Most of the times the answer was no. We will stay in our core business. Or for example, I sometimes ask that, okay, how do you see who will or what kind of organizations will be your main competitors in, say, the next 10 years? Will they change? Many times the companies answer that no, they won't change. So the basic idea here is that, okay, companies have new tools or whatever at their disposal, but the ways to use them, it's still kind of unclear. The same applies to open innovation. I would say that from the interviews in the 11 countries, in the 5 sectors, the kind of the combined answers that we got that were related to open innovation, they really provided us with a kind of really hazy picture. What does it mean? What is open innovation? How do you organize that? When do you use that? What it's good for? The kind of the only clear indicator was that, okay, companies are kind of relying more and more on information sourced from outside organizations. But whether that is open innovation or if it turns into something that we could call open innovation, that's an entire different question. On the other hand, this is such a hot topic that we can see that roughly 75 or 80% of the companies said that, hey, we're engaged in open innovation activities. There's a huge connotation there. You can't be left out of that kind of development. In terms of the way to organize and manage innovation processes, one of the key messages that I wanted to say here is related to this kind of mosaic picture here. This says that the responsibility of making decisions regarding innovations can reside in many places within a particular company. In that sense, there's also the risk that it gets trampled by other businesses. Yeah. So the key message here is that, okay, if you want to kind of give strategic importance to innovation projects or innovation activities within your company, you have to make sure that the decision-making power is given to the kind of the right person or right team. So it means top management team or CEO or CTO. Another thing related to the organizing of innovation projects or processes. Many times we heard that, okay, in the past everything has been organized according to the kind of the it's kind of very well-known stage gate model for organizing innovation processes, and that is still used, and I think it has its place, definitely. But then on the other hand, we have this you could call it the kind of the lean startup style of innovation process, where you try to involve the customer in a very early stage to your innovation processes, and see how you can in collaboration develop a product that or service that kind of in the best way solves some particular problem or provides a kind of a really good opportunity for the customer. So that's what we here call customer-driven model of organizing innovation processes. And then we have something in between, which is the flexible. I don't know where that excuse me, that name came from, but yeah, anyway, it's supposed to kind of indicate to the idea that some companies in some for some projects they still use the stage gate model. For other projects, they might use the customer-driven organizing principle. I guess kind of the one last point that I wanted to make today is related to the innovation policies, both on the national level and on the EU level. Personally, I was kind of intrigued by the observation that many times the people that we talked to, they were CEOs or chief technology officers or heads of really huge R&D departments in some of the most largest or in the largest corporations that we talked to. So the observation that kind of intrigued me was that many times the interviewees said that they don't talk so much to the policymakers. So kind of the message was that there's a gap between the companies and the policymakers, even though the innovation policies tend to play kind of a major role, at least in creating barriers for innovation. So in that sense, it would be really kind of important that the companies would keep the lines open between themselves and the policymakers. And that's what we try to kind of, this is one of the messages that we kind of try to deliver with our research. Yeah, here's kind of a distribution of the barriers that this lack of interaction between the companies and the kind of the institutions creates. So there are barriers that are related to finance or skill shortages or regulation tends to inhibit innovation. But the assumption or the idea is that if companies would engage in dialogue with the policymakers a little bit more, some of these could be solved. Right. So the next one is the most important slide. Please visit our website. There's more information there. Thanks so much.